Alright, Hawaii Tennis Pro is here today to interview Harold Mollin, and we'll be working together to do some videos together. Harold, can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Well, I've been here in Thailand running a few programs for better children and for a lot of adults who come to me from around the world to make their games better and for them to move in the rankings. Before this, I had played tennis many years, and as a person from New York originally, and in between in business. But when I came to Thailand, I felt there was a definite need for expert instruction, and so I decided to fill that gap. I not only run programs for better kids who fly in here, but I've also written a book of my tips, because a lot of the things I see are just not adequately addressed by many academies. Some of the common sense things, such as how to volley effectively, how to structure points, how to look at your game and say, all right, my forehand's on a scale of 1 to 10, a 7. My serve is an 8. My backhand's a 5, and my volley's a 2. So you try to work on every part of your game to make them all up to a 7 and 8 at equal level, if you can. I don't see people stressing these things. I think people hide from their shortcomings and try to use their strengths more to make them a better player rather than buttressing the whole game. I mean, you got to admire men like Nadal and Djokovic. These guys were top 10 in the world, and they realized they were missing a few shots. I mean, Djokovic, many years ago, had a forehand that every player knew he could go into. And his backhand's always been perfect. But that forehand, if you hit 4 balls in there, he'd miss one of them. Now he went back to the drawing table, and he runs around his backhand to hit his forehand, because it's more effective now and more damaging. He did the same thing with his volley also. He didn't volley well. Now he's looking to move forward. Of course, he's #1 in the world for the last few years, and it shows he can do that. But Nadal did the same thing. Nadal had no volley whatsoever, right? And he hired a volley coach, and he's learned to volley effectively when he's in there.
What do you think is the most important thing on the volley, or the most important aspect of the volley?
Well, it's always the feet. You got to get in position, and you've got to learn that if you use your weight and your body through a volley, that volley is going to stay on line. If you just use your hands and your arm, the ball is going to fly everywhere. So the trick is to get your feet in position and keep your hands out in front. And again, you don't need to use more than 6 inches on this. That is enough to hit an effective volley if you use your weight effectively.
For the modern game nowadays, would you encourage serving and volleying, or more of an all-court kind of game, or strictly baselining with volleying being kind of a bring me the net because I have to kind of thing?
It always changes. It goes back and forth. But many years ago, there was a famous tennis player and became one of the greatest coaches of all time, Coach Connors, a guy named Pancho Segura. And I knew him about 20 years ago, and I remember he was then probably 70. I remember watching a number of players, and he turned to me, and these were guys sitting in the back row, but they were moving forward a little bit. And we talked about the game and as it goes, and he says, Harold, this game will always be won at the net. And now you see a guy who's a ground stroker like Raonic, all of a sudden behind McEnroe, and Raonic is moving forward much more. Murray's biggest problem for years was he's a pusher, and he would sit back there except when he got into trouble. When he got into trouble, all of a sudden he becomes more aggressive and came to net. Now he can do everything, and then he wins more points in more games. Now why someone like that didn't do it from the get-go, at the beginning of a match, is beyond me. But now he is becoming more aggressive at the beginning and coming full. I mean, you look over time, Sampras was a serving volley. Agassi learned to volley, just the way Nadal and Djokovic did, because he realized that with his great ground strokes and returns, he got the short ball. But then you want to hit an approach. And that's why it's called an approach. It's not called a winner. And so he realized he just can't hit winners from below the net, and he wanted to hit that good approach and then put away the easy volley.
When you come to net, what's your thought process as you approach the net and then when you're at the net? So what's your thought process? What goes through your mind or your goal?
The first volley generally is not a winner. The first volley is to set up your winning shot. So my first thoughts, especially on moderate speed hard courts, is to get that volley deep. It does two things. Number one, a lot of times it ends up at the feet of your opposition. But it also gives you time to get position in the net, and when they do have to hit a shot, you've got more time to get ready for it. If you hit that volley short and it falls around the service line, that ball coming from their racket to you is a much shorter time. So I hit the first volley deep to get ready to hit the next volley for a winner to the opening ball.
When you think about serving and volleying, do you prefer serving out wide or serving middle or body? What's your thought pattern of serving and volleying?
Well, a lot of times depending on your opponent. On crucial points, I'd like to serve into the guy's body, because this way he gets no free swing on either side. If you serve it out wide, if he guesses a little bit right, he can blast it by you at a higher level. When I used to serve big, sometimes I didn't have enough time to get into the net, which happens to Raonic and these big servers now. So they're now realizing that if they hit that big spin serve, it gives them time to close quickly, and if the guy doesn't guess right, it gives them plenty of time to blanket that net and have good position. So it varies. And a lot of times, I've developed drills that put pressure on the person serving and volleying to make sure their hands stay in front, and they learn, no matter if they're falling on their face, to keep their head still and make that first volley.
What do you think about on low volleys? What's your goal on a low volley? What's your thought process?
Well, as soon as I see an opponent hitting a low volley, I start to cheat and move forward, because I know how tough it is. So when I have to hit that low volley, I want to make sure I'm keeping it a decent height over the net, opening the racket face, but just, again, trying to keep that ball deep. But the other side of the coin is if I float it, a real good player is going to take 2 steps in and nail it. So you got to be firm, but keep it deep. Or learn to hit a real good drop volley.
There's a guy walking behind you.
What?
The guy walking behind you. What do you think about passing shots? What's your goal on passing shots?
Well, number one, when someone comes to net and hits an approach shot, you're not supposed to even think that person exists anymore. All right? What you do is you decide you're either going to go down the line, cross court, at the person up, or over their head. You're going to lob. All right. Now, depending where they hit that approach shot from, if they're not quick enough to get to your side of the court to hit that volley, then just go down the line. When someone approaches cross court, you've got an opening, unless they're really quick. So generally, on the other side of the coin, when I hit an approach shot, I go down the line because I've got less steps to take to cover. And I'm aware on the passing shot that when they hit an approach down the line to me, I've got to be very aware of their being able to cover all the angles. So I'll either hit, a lot of times, soft cross court so they can't get it when it's above the net, or I'll go right at them coming in. And at that point, if they're a real good volleyer, they maybe hit the open court. But if they're not a great volleyer, I'll probably get an easier ball to pass on the next shot. So a lot of times my passing shots are, no the guy comes in is not to pass. It's to get the next shot to pass.
What's your preferred grip?
Okay, well,
Do you believe in switching grips, like for half volley or normal volley, or?
No, there really is no switching grips on the volleys. You've got to be prepared for a forehand or a backhand volley, no matter what. And there's no guarding an area like you're in the backcourt, where you can fade into the backhand corner a little bit if you got a weak backhand, for the baseline. At the volleys, it's even, because if a guy favors a side, I'll dump a short ball into the other side and then put the next ball away. But as to the grip, you want to use that continental grip, same grip for both. And generally, when you enter the court, come into no man's land and go forward, you should be in that continental grip most of the time.
So on the approach shot or transition shot, are you advocating topspin shot, flat, or slice?
Those are very loaded question, because an approach shot is an approach shot. All right. If you're going to look to hit a winner, well, then maybe you want to hit a top. And if you've got time to get your racket back and get into your grip you use for your forehand, which is sometimes eastern or western grip, you can hit that top. But if you're not going to look to hit winners, a lot of times it's better to just hit that slice approach, which stays up because of the underspin over the net and goes deep without a lot of work. All right, and gives you time to come in. If you hit that ball with top, if you don't hit it just right, that ball sits up there really nicely for a guy to pass you. Where if you just hit a really good slice, and especially now on the grass at Wimbledon now, that ball stays real low, and it's very tough for a guy to dig the ball from that low and pass the guy in net.
When do you lob?
You lob when the guy doesn't think you're going to lob, or that would be an offensive lob. Or you lob when your alternatives aren't as good as going up, and which means that you don't think you can hit a pass that will put your opponent in a defensive position. If anything you're going to hit gives them an easy volley, you want to go up. And when you go up on a lob, you want to go up. You want to hit a lob that you don't ever want to see hit to you, that you had hit an overhead, which means go up high and go up deep.
When you're hitting overheads and you're in a volley situation, are you changing your grip from your volley grip to an overhead grip, or is it the same grip?
No, same grip. And I try to make sure that if I am in there, that my hands are in front of me. If that ball goes up, I just go right back past my ear. I don't go in a long motion. But I tell people that you can come into net and you can get as tight as you like, as long as you can cover 95% of what's behind you. But if a guy is lobbing you and that ball is falling just about the service line, a little beyond it, you're way too close. And good players can smell a guy too close to that net.